And we are back live once again here on the Cowboys Report. Tom Downey, producer Chris, behind the scenes for today's live show as we get closer to roster cutdown time, the final regular or preseason game for the Cowboys. Lots of movement to come. If you did not see later last night, the Cowboys have made another move. They signed Linval Joseph, or are signing, I should say. It's not technically on the NFL transaction wire quite yet. I bet it will be today. Grade the signing of Linval Joseph. This is going to be a one-year deal, $2.5 million guaranteed, up to $4 million with incentives that I somehow doubt he ends up hitting. Grade the signing, A, B, C, D, or F in the comments section of today's video. By the way, with this signing, in the last week, the Dallas Cowboys have added more outside players than they did in the entirety of the NFL free agency to pre-NFL draft period. Guess they meant all in August and not all in when other teams are making transactions there. Individually, I'm fine with the move. I will actually give credence to the, Linval Joseph didn't want to do anything, in camp. He wanted to wait till after camp. I actually buy that. He's 35 years old. He didn't want to. It's fine. Grade the signing, A, B, C, D, or F. Just don't use it as an excuse. Like kind of some people doing it like, oh, well, see, nobody wanted to sign with them. Like that, no, that's not true. Just Linval in particular didn't want to sign quite away. A, B, C, D, or F. I see A, B, B, A or B, 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 B minus. I think that's about the right range. The expectation, of course, and the roles, I think maybe a slight overpay. Not by a lot, but I guess by a couple, $500,000, give or take. Maybe a full million, which does that really change the needle? No, it shouldn't move your needle at all. They're arguing with CeeDee Lamb on a per-year deal, so who cares? You needed more beef on the interior. Now, much of your size, Jordan Phillips and Linval Joseph, is old beef. So hopefully it's not expired. But aged beef can be good. Just if it's not expired, Hopefully it's not. We'll find out when the games matter. B, B, B minus, B. I think that's fair. It doesn't excuse the complete lack of movement in actual free agency, but at least they're doing things now. So you'll take what you can get from a certain extent. All right, two sponsors for you on today's live edition of the Cowboys Report. First up is Prize Picks. They are America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Over 5 million active members, picking more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watching those winnings roll in. Download the Prize Picks app today over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's CLNS, the code over at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Today's show also made possible by our good friends over at Game Time. What time is it? It is Game Time. The place for last-minute tickets to your next football game, baseball game. Run out of time for that one, by the way. Concert, comedy, theater, and more. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create your account and redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. We have moved on to the first wave of secondary players for the Cowboys legend voting conversation. So pick a Cowboys legend. JH for Jeff Heath, ME for Mario Edwards, RR for Reggie Robinson, PH for Pete Hunter, XR for Xavier Rhodes. I think you got some really good options on here. I fully anticipate Jeff Heath running away with this conversation. And he was almost too good to be on this list. Almost too good. Because he spent several years in Dallas. He actually spent 7 years with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, he only started 54 games. And I think this was kind of like in the middle of our safeties are not actually very good, so we're going to have to get somebody in there to handle things. Then spent time with the Raiders and with the New Orleans Saints. So I almost thought he was too good to put in the conversation, but, we can just pretend it's Jeff Heath, the special teamer as well. So JHMERRPHXR are your options today. Some older generation players, Mario Edwards, Pete Hunter. Reggie Robinson was the 4th-round pick from that Lamb-Diggs draft class, and he never quite materialized where everyone wanted him to. Xavier Rhodes also works pretty well because he actually was way too good for the Vikings to even be in this conversation, but he spent like 2 months here. Like 2 months. I see some XR votes. JH in there. Can't say I'm surprised Mario Edwards, Pete Hunter not getting a ton of votes. For the most part, the Cowboys legend voting has been younger players only. Very tough to get an older generation guy in there. I think outside of, did Quincy Carter win his race? I feel like he did. Yeah. Quincy Carter. Craig Morton was also almost too good, but I feel like, the guy that got replaced by Roger Staubach is kind of a good memory there. Randall Cunningham was I think also a fun induction, but Rocket Ishmael was super young. There's been a lot of young guys as of late. All right, the super chat menu for today's show: $20 for a shot, $50 for the beer bong, $100 the bong slap and shot combo, $500 the custom Cowboys jersey. That is available all season long. You pick the name and number. I'll wear it during the season and then ship it out to you at the end of the year. I'm also thinking about this as I look at the Cowboys legend. I don't know if we're going to have a live show Monday, and that really screws up my planning because I took it right up to the start of the regular season. And because Tuesday is then Rosh Cutdown Day, so it's kind of not as great of a point to do it. I'll figure it out later. What is your confidence level in Mazi Smith right now? Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comments of today's show. We'll talk about Mazi. I think there's been some. I put the meme out on Twitter of it's the SpongeBob driver's license or wallet meme. Basically, my point was Cowboys defensive line room was bad. We all agreed on that. It needed help. Even before and after Jordan Phillips, even if Mazi Smith plays well, they needed help. We all agreed on that. So, okay, so you want to get help? Yes. So you signed Mazi, you signed Linval Joseph to give you depth and give you help, right? And my mentions were Mazi Smith sucks, clearly. Like, wait a minute, no. That's not why they did that. Like, you can't just jump on every opportunity just because you don't like the guy. I think there were a lot of people. It's very strange to me how many self-proclaimed, it's probably actually not that many, but like how many self-proclaimed Cowboys fans are like, I think clearly rooting against him. Because they just didn't like the pick. They'd rather be right about the pick than be wrong about the pick and have the player turn out good. I hope Maurice Leafau was 10 times better than I thought he was going to be. That's all I want him to be. Weird. Confidence level in Mazi. I'm a little surprised at some of the high numbers. 8, 5, 3, 7, 5, 5, 7.5, 10, 10, 7, 7, 7.5, 10s in there. I would not have gone that high, quite frankly. Which is interesting. So confidence level in Mazi Smith, 5.5, 10 is in there. Get your votes. Continue to flow in during today's live show. Speaking of, if you are ready for us to start today's show, like the video. 34 likes. Did not get to the 50% ratio. Close, but actually no, not close at all. That's just basic math. So if you are ready for us to begin today's live show, the goal was always that 50% like ratio. We've been close during some of those preseason games. Been hovering around there. I think we do it on all of our shows, all of our live shows at least. On-demand shows probably not as easy, but remember, if you're watching the Cowboys Report, you should always like it. So like that video as we get set up for today's live edition of the Cowboys Report. We've got news, rumors. I've got some training camp's kind of over. There's nothing going on until the preseason game, so I got some general things I wanted to discuss. Roster projection. We'll break down my updated 53-man projection. Several spots I actually had a really hard time figuring out what the Cowboys were going to do. In part because it kind of bleeds over positional lines, too. A mailbag, 2 ways to get on the show. Hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat to skip the line. And we'll have a Chargers preseason preview, some top players to watch. All coming up live here on the Cowboys Report. Before we get into today's edition of the Cowboys Report, who is your all-time favorite Cowboys player? Any player from all the Cowboys storied history, who is your favorite one? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Let's talk Mazi Smith here. Somewhat of a meltdown over Mazi Smith. The addition of Linval Joseph led some, I don't know how many it actually was, but some, to try to victory lap claim, oh, clearly it means they're out on Mazi Smith. I actually don't think that is the case. And my biggest reason here is you needed Mazi Smith to play well after a very disappointing year one, and you need more up front. It was both of those things. Not, well, either Mazi plays well or you get help. Both things were on the table there for the Cowboys. And my biggest argument in that area is the snap counts, is the way that the Cowboys are going to deploy their defensive line. 2023, now look, it's a different defense. Mike Zimmer versus Dan Quinn. The guys that spent a majority of their snaps or a significant amount of snaps on the interior of the defensive line. Osa Odigizua was at about 37.5 per game. Jonathan Hankins, 25.1 per game. Chauncey Golston, DT reps only, he played both spots, was at 9.2. Mazi Smith, 17.9. Golston actually played more snaps than Mazi, but I reduced it down on just the DT filter. Neville Gallimore at 16.9. And Carl Davis, is of course his regular season, was at 30 overall, 10 snaps per game. Overall, that's about 100 snaps per game you were playing along the defensive line. Rounding, of course, there, but it makes the math pretty easy. So, acknowledging that Chauncey Golston is going to play defensive end and not so much defensive tackle, but you could probably reduce some guys from defensive end to DT in super obvious pass rushing situations. You're looking at somewhere between 37-47 snaps, and I want to count Chauncey Golston, per game. Rough estimations there. Before you have made your moves along the defense line, before you added Jordan Phillips and now added Linval Joseph, your defensive tackle options were Mazi Smith and Osa Odigizua and a bunch of, I don't know what the hell you have there. You're going to, playing Osa 40 snaps per game is a lot. You can probably get 20 snaps a game out of Mazi Smith as a big run-stopping nose guard. Did anyone here want to play those guys 50 snaps per game? Each of them? No, of course not. You're probably aiming for more of a rough 40-20-20 split or 40-25, 15-20, whatever the ratio ends up looking like. You wanted to rotate those guys. You have to rotate those guys. Now you can. Nobody out there outside of a handful of freaky players play, 90% of the snaps on the defense line. That's not how it works. So now you have Osa Odigizua and Jordan Phillips can handle the lined up at the 3 technique spot, although Phillips will be more of a run stopper, Osa's more of a pass rusher. Mazi Smith, Linval Joseph, maybe Justin Rogers can be your true nose guards, your one technique types of players. You needed help at defensive tackle. They've gotten some help now. That was the whole point of doing this thing. We will go more in depth here on Mazi Smith. What is your confidence level in him? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. I think a low number, totally fine, totally reasonable, understandable. The honeymoon is over for Mazi Smith after he didn't do much last season. It was a rough year for Mazi. I think he lost some confidence. I think he had the weight issues, the production issues. The honeymoon is over. You need Mazi Smith to look at least competent and on the upward path this year. You need him to. That part has never changed. You also needed more options behind him and alongside of him and not just have it be a two-man show where teams are playing 4 or 5 defensive tackles every game. That's how this works to keep guys fresh. So the depth angle has been addressed. Now look, it's older depth. You have some more beef on the interior. Hopefully it's aged beef and not expired beef. But you needed to find options along that defensive line room and not have it be, well, even if Mazi's, because what you had going into the training camp, even if Mazi Smith takes a massive breakout season, you didn't have enough at defensive tackle. You still might not, but I can now say you have 4 NFL caliber players on your defensive line rotation. 2 weeks ago, you didn't have 4. You really didn't. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, over 5 million active members. Thing I like most about Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. You're not battling thousands of other players, having to finish top 5% or have the perfect lineup to win anything. You just pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings roll in. You can do Prize Picks on individual football games, individual baseball games. You can also do it on season-long games as well. Here's one of my wide receiver Prize Picks slates. Some injury risk involved here. That's why I did the flex play. So only got to get 2 out of 3 right. Calvin Ridley, T. Higgins, and Cooper Kupp all more than on their Prize Picks slates. So download the Prize Picks app today over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS over at prizepicks.com/CLNS for that first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game. A couple outlets, fans, media, fan-sided among them, and not the only ones out there, have suggested, what about bringing back Randy Gregory? And I would be pretty shocked if this one actually happened, and I frankly don't think it actually makes a ton of sense for the dual parties involved here. I think there are major issues that we will get into, but I also believe in democracy. So would you bring back Randy Gregory if you ran the Cowboys? Y for yes, N for no. Sound off for me in the comments of today's show. Here's my number one issue, and this is a pure football reason. Randy Gregory declined when he got paid by Denver. Now, maybe it wasn't the money. Injuries were a factor there too. But he played 6 games in 2022 at 2 sacks. Played 16 games in 2023 at 3.5 sacks. Signed with Tampa, and we will come back to that element there. But I don't think he was as good as he was in 2021, where he actually played pretty well for the Cowboys. Also has been suspended more games than he's played. That's an issue there. I also don't view edge depth right now, knock on wood, no more injuries, as much of an issue for this Cowboys organization. You're going to bring Micah Parsons on a lot of pressures. You have DeMarcus Lawrence. Marshawn Yellen has shown some good things to you so far, plus he was a second-round pick. Chauncey Golston is a player that can do some run-stopping stuff and can be your 5th edge or 4th edge, whatever. And Carl Lawson is the exact role you'd be asking Randy Gregory to play is the role you are doing with Carl Lawson. And I think the biggest issue here, the bridges were napalmed on the way out. Not just in Dallas, by the way. Randy Gregory signed this offseason with Tampa Bay and never showed up. Why? No one really knows. Some reports he might just retire from the NFL. In kind of ironic fashion, the Cowboys not re-signing Gregory was the old successfully failed task because they wanted to sign him. They had agreed to sign him. Then they had the contract language stuff, avoiding the guarantees because it's just of drug tests that teams don't actually do much anymore because you don't have to worry about failing drug tests for weed anymore. And it kind of all blew up in their face, and Denver swooped in last second. They wanted to sign him. They didn't sign him, and ended up working out perfectly. Even though the Cowboys then tried to say they didn't try to sign him, which they clearly did. They couldn't just admit that they got away with it, right? And not only that, if he does want to retire, okay, cool. Like, that's good. I hope he's doing okay. Does either side want to get back together? There are not very many times when getting back with your ex is a good idea. And fair or not, this might fall into the crazy ex-girlfriend category. Maybe for both sides would even argue that there. It's kind of like J-Lo getting back together with Ben Affleck. Like, we all knew that wasn't going to go well, and it ended in divorce again. Who's among us could have seen that one coming? You know, Randy Gregory from Dallas is going to end up in divorce. Maybe it's not day one. Maybe it's not year one. It's going to end badly. So, no, I don't want to go down that path at all. Now, we are less than 200 subs from 192,000 subscribers here on the Cowboys Report. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. The running back room with DT mostly taken care of, I think, is still the biggest question mark on this Cowboys roster. And I've sat on this for a couple of days, and I figure I might as well deploy it now. I hope I don't look dumb after the final preseason game. I look at this Cowboys roster as constructed at running back. I think you have to put Deuce Vaughn on here. And I think that means putting him over at least 2 of Ezekiel, Elliott, Royce Freeman, and Malik Davis. Now, I think the reality of this Cowboys organization is Ezekiel is on your football team. I don't think that's really up for debate from a practicality perspective, which means at minimum I'm putting him in over Freeman and Davis. You want to keep an extra one? Okay, whatever. I think Deuce Vaughn has to be on this team. I'll explain why here in a minute. But do you want him on the Cowboys? K for keep, C for cut. Let me know in the comments of today's video. It is a small sample size of preseason games for Deuce Vaughn, but when he has been out there in situations that aren't just like garbage time at the end of actual NFL games, Deuce Vaughn has actually been a good running back, and he was an awesome running back at Kansas State. Size memes aside, which size is a very valid concern, every time he's touched the ball in the preseason, good things have happened, and he is a very different style of player than the other backs on this roster. Ezekiel Elliott, he is who he is at this stage of his NFL career. He can be your short yardage guy. He can be a power runner. He can do some pass protection stuff. A lot of those same things apply to Royce Freeman, who probably isn't as good at some of the areas we just mentioned, but also offers special team stuff. This Cowboys roster wants to be a committee. So let's look at these different committee roles, right? Short yardage back, 3rd and 1, who are you going to give the ball to? I think you should not give it to Deuce Vaughn. That's a bad idea. I'm also ignoring the fullback in this conversation. You can give it to Zeke, give it to Royce Freeman. Rico Dowdle was actually pretty effective in short yardage last year. He's going to be on this list a lot because he should be your number 1 back right now. And Malik Davis. So it's 4 guys to fill the same role, right? Maybe you leave out Dowdle. Pass protection. I think Zeke and Rico Dowdle are good in that area. Special teams, you can put on like coverage stuff or returns for Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn, which we'll get to. Royce Freeman has done that. Malik Davis done that. But do you need a third special teamer running back these days with the way the rules are changing? I'm not so sure. Pass catching. From an efficiency, explosive play perspective, Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn stand out to me as obvious fits there. Return options. I think Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn can do that for you. Maybe Malik Davis, but maybe not. I think all 3 of those guys, by the way, Dowdle, Royce, and Davis have real shots of making the roster. But where does your athletic juice come from? Like your scat back type, right? Who has the explosive playability? That is not Royce Freeman. That is not Ezekiel Elliott. Haven't really seen that from Malik Davis. Rico Dowdle kind of can be, but I also don't want to just make it like Rico Dowdle gets 200 carries. I don't know if that's a very good idea for a committee back. I would argue that Ezekiel Elliott, Royce Freeman, and probably Malik Davis too, are too redundant for this committee role. I don't want 3 short yardage backs. I need some explosive plays. I need someone who can make guys miss. At this stage in their careers, I don't know if that's Freeman, if that's Davis, if that's Zeke. So I can keep 1, maybe 2 as well, but I also need someone who also brings juice in the backfield. And I am still open to making that somebody outside of the Cowboys organization. If somebody gets cut, if somebody becomes available on the trade market, I have no complaints about doing that. But of the guys on the roster, it's kind of just Deuce Vaughn at this point. So grade the signing for me of Linval Joseph. A, B, C, D, or F in the comments section. A, B, C, D, or F. Jenkins says Steelers should use, Cowboys should use him like the Steelers used Jerome Bettis. At the end of his career, I mean, that's kind of what the 3.3 yards per carry, 110 touches, 110 carries on 368 yards. That Steelers team, though, had fast Willie Parker. He had fast in his name. So I'm actually fine with that. And by the way, fast Willie Parker ran for 1,000 yards in that season, 4.7 yards per carry. So I'm fine. Like I would honestly hope you get better production out of Zeke than end of career Jerome Bettis. Like end of career Jerome Bettis was truly was 3 yards in a cloud of dust, which I don't want. But you need to have that explosive play. Who here thinks Rico Dowdle can handle 200 carries in a season? I don't know if he can. I need to get someone in there with some more juice. It's not just Rico. Ecuador man AOG. I don't give a damn about being right. Mazi was bad. He was bad last year. I think he's on a better path so far this season, but there's a lot of room to still grow. And I think to an extent, not necessarily like a splashy play you'll notice Mazi Smith. It borderline becomes if we're not noticing Mazi Smith in games, that's probably actually a good thing because it means he's not getting pushed out of the way, and the linebackers are making plays. Zeno saying, how does Heath have the most votes? He's the best kicker. What's funny? I think Bones Foskett did a lot of fun things with Jeff Heath at this point in like the NFL career path. Like, because now the kicking is, you're going to have to tackle a little bit probably. Like, you can't just not do anything like the way you used to be able to. Heath would have been great at that. Same with David Bueller. Would have found a second life with the way the NFL kick rules have changed. I do wonder if I shouldn't have put Jeff Heath in there, but I feel like people would have been mad if I didn't. So I went ahead and did it for that one there. Today's super chat, man. At least the supers are pulling. You never know how it's always going to go. $20 for a shot, 50 for a beer bong, 100 for the bong, slap, and shot trio, 500 custom Cowboys jersey. Within reason, put whatever you want, name, back, whatever, name on the front, number as well, and we will get that. I'll wear it during the regular season, then we'll ship it out to you guys at the end of the year. The Cowboys roster cuts are not too far away from going down, and we will have you covered when the news happens. We'll probably do a couple different videos on the bigger names that get cut as they happen, and then we'll do an entire roster breakdown once that initial 53-man roster is set. So do not miss out. Hit that sub button right now as we break down my initial my updated, 53-man roster projection for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's go to quarterback. There's not much to have a big conversation about here. It's Dak Prescott, it's Cooper Rush, it's Trey Lance. I don't anticipate movement. I'd be surprised if something did happen, but those three guys will be your three, and I want to see who the emergency quarterback is for that third spot come week one. Running backs. I think Ezekiel Elliott is a roster lock. I think Rico Dowdle is a roster lock. I think fullback Hunter Lipke should be viewed as very safe, maybe not quite full-on lock, but close or super safe. The third running back spot, and Lipke's going to be more of a fullback tight end hybrid, I think, this year, and maybe a fourth spot very much up for grabs. I think there are three players who have a legitimate chance of making the 53-man roster. I almost put 5 backs, including Lipke, on this roster. I am putting Deuce Vaughn on here. I need the explosive plays. He can help you on returns, which, as of right now, beyond Kevontae Turpin, if you don't want to jeopardize Rico Dowdle, you don't really have a third option. I think Deuce Vaughn can fill that role for you. I think Royce Freeman has a chance to make the Cowboys roster, if he could also be stay tuned for practice squad stuff. I would wonder if Malik Davis, though, is actually currently ahead of at least Royce Freeman, maybe even Deuce Vaughn as well. So pick, if you could only keep one guy, pick one to keep. DV for Deuce Vaughn, Royce Freeman, that's RF, MD for Malik Davis. Let me know in the comments of today's show. So 5th running back fighting is an up for grab spot. I think 6th receiver is also an up for grab spot. I am doing the week 1 projection. Maybe they'll do something weird if he hasn't signed yet. Whatever. I'll deal with that later. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks, Kevontae Turpin. I think those guys are going to be on the roster. And I will make room for Ryan Flournoy. We know how the Cowboys are about their draft picks. They don't often cut draft picks, especially the first-year players, because they like their guys. I've seen some really good things from Flournoy now that he's been healthy. I think he has gone from, you're in a tough spot there. Can he beat out Jalen Cropper and Tyron Willie-Johnson to, he's ahead of those guys. And I would bet that if they carry a 6th receiver, which no guarantee, I think they will though, Flournoy is that 6th guy. So does Flournoy make the roster? Y for yes, N for no. Go ahead and sound off in the pin comment, actually, of today's video. Y or N. Tight ends. Because you can play Lipke at tight end if needed, I'm only going to carry 3, which is lighter than what Dallas normally does, but I wanted room for Flournoy, basically. Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker, John Stevens. If there is a 4th tight end, it'd be between Princeton Fant and Brevin Spann, who got a pretty decent signing bonus as an undrafted free agent. All right, offensive line time. You have some locks here. Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Zach Martin, Terrence Steele, TJ Bass, Brock Hoffman. Those 7 are locks. I think Awesome Richards, because of injuries, has gone from bubble to safe. Not quite full-on lock there. And then I think, it pains me, I am going to put Josh Ball as that 9th healthy offensive lineman on the list because he has actually played very well in the preseason on both right guard and the left tackle spot. So you've got the option there. Chuma Adoga will begin the year on IR. The rules have changed. You don't have to carry them through the first day. You can put 2 players on IR on roster cutdown day. Adoga will be one of those guys. May not be another one. We'll see. And then Bostic's obviously on IR for the entire season. So Adoga doesn't count. He'll be IR to return. Download the Game Time app today if you are looking for tickets to your next big event. There is no better app to use. They have a new feature, by the way, called Game Time Picks. Makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks, just curation to make it easier. Save money on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Game Time is the only ticketing app I use. It's the only one you guys should use as well. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create your account and redeem code CHATSPORTS, ChatSports, for $20 off. Again, terms do apply. Download the Game Time app, gametime.co, create your account, use that code ChatSports, $20 off. Download Game Time today because what time is it? It's game time. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Go to the defensive line here for the roster projection. I'm going to carry 5. I really almost did 4. Osa, Mazi, Jordan Phillips, Linval Joseph. Those guys feel like they're going to be your 4. Justin Rogers and one other guy we'll get to was one of the last roster spots I had here. Not convinced he does it. I'm going with the history of the Cowboys like their draft picks. So they might only carry 4. And if they do, they probably carry an extra linebacker instead of what I have on here, which we'll get to in a second. Edge rusher feels really obvious. Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Carl Lawson, Marshawn Nealon, Chauncey Golston. Sam Williams obviously on IR for the entire season. I can't put Fehoko on here. Hasn't done anything yet, right? All right, linebackers, 4 obvious players. Eric Kendricks, DeMarvion Overshone, Damone Clark, Maurice Leafau, order them however you want to. Willie Harvey was the last guy I cut. I think Nick Vigil's in conversation here too. I could see Dallas carrying 6 linebackers. Might depend on how banged up they actually think Overshone and Clark are. I think they're fine, but it's worth monitoring there. Buddy Johnson's got some big praise from Todd Archer, so I would never overlook that because he's pretty damn smart when it comes to who's actually going to make this Cowboys team. So I think it's at least 5. It might be 6. I saw some projections with 4. That's not how the Cowboys do business anymore, not with Mike Zimmer in there. How many linebackers do you think make the Cowboys roster? Drop that number for me in the comments of today's show. Cornerbacks. You've got locks here. Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland, Jordan Lewis, Kalen Carson. I think they want Andrew Booth to make it since they did trade for him. Not a lock, but I'd probably put on the safe side. Israel Mukuamu is very much on the bubble. The reason why I put him on here, he can be your number 1 backup nickel behind Jordan Lewis. He can be your number 5 outside corner. He can be your number 5 safety. And he can help you as a key player on special teams. That stuff matters. Now, no guarantee. They could go linebacker heavy instead. But if you had to, you could always play one of your safeties at linebacker again, too. Just throwing that out there, by the way. 4-man safety room here. Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Wanye Thomas, and Marquise Bell. Actually might be the best room on the roster. It's actually really good. Depth, especially, is better than what it's been in a very, very long time. Special teams, very straightforward. Brandon Aubrey, Brian Anger, Trent Sig. If they need to cut a veteran and then put him back on the active roster, someone like Trent Sig could make sense, but the rules have changed enough. Dallas might not have to do that, mental gymnastics or roster gymnastics type of stuff. Now for the Cowboys, we'll look at some notable cuts and the practice squad here in a second. But name a surprise cut candidates? Drop that name in the comments of today's show. Some notable cuts. It would seem very surprising if Peyton Hendershot made this roster at this point. Viliami Feoko Jr., look, he hasn't done anything. Dan Quinn, come get your guy. Come pick him up. Damian Wilson, notable veteran. I think Nick Vigil's ahead of him right now, would be my guess. Eric Scott Jr., the corner. Dan Quinn, come get your guy. Nathan Thomas and David Durden. I had a very tough time cutting Nathan Thomas. Again, the Cowboys love their draft picks. Those guys could be IR stashes. Nathan Thomas has I think it was a patella issue, which is not insignificant. David Durden didn't play in the last preseason game. Saw him in the rehab group with looked like a brace on his ankle. So those guys could be IR stashes. Players you like, you don't want to jeopardize getting through to the practice squad. They could be IR stashes by Dallas. All right, on to the practice squad here. Again, I think there's a real chance Malik Davis makes your 53. Same with Royce Freeman. Freeman's a veteran. Doesn't have to go through waivers. I can put him right in the practice squad. That might be your best play there. Malik Davis. I'll put 2 tight ends on there. Princeton Fant, Brevin Spanford, guys the Cowboys have liked but have been pretty quiet in the preseason. A couple of receivers. Again, I kind of cheated by putting Durden on IR. I wanted to put Kelvin Harmon on here, but I'm going to go with Tyron Billy Johnson, Racy McMath, and Jalen Cropper. I doubt those guys get claimed. Matt Waletzko might get claimed. And if I'm being honest, one offensive lineman on your practice squad is probably not enough. I would bet they sign somebody outside the organization, but I don't want to do guesses as to who gets cut and who gets claimed because there's always like random guys. Defensively, Albert Huggins at defensive tackle. He was much better in the second preseason game. Denzel Daxon, by the way, is a freebie. He is an international player pathway program. So instead of 16 practice squad spots, Cowboys actually get 17. Tyra Sweets and Darrell Johnson over Al-Quadin Muhammad because I was a little heavy on veterans, but I wouldn't be shocked if Al-Quadin Muhammad made it since that's a Mike Zimmer signing. He signed off on him versus he was already here and was on the roster when Zimmer got hired. Linebackers, Willie Harvey Jr., Nick Vigil. I think you could get Harvey down to the practice squad. Of all the players, like, Tom, you were wrong on that one. That might be the one I'm most wrong on defense. CJ Goodwin, same thing. Put him on the practice squad, call him up for 3 games, see how it goes from there practice squad-wise. I think Kamon Hall's flashed a lot to kind of earn that role, to earn a practice squad spot. Very impressive for him. Julius Wood has looked very good at safety. Cowboys might have found another safety in the UDFAs and late round process there. So I like what I've seen so far from Julius Wood. But with so many safety options, tough to get him on the actual active roster. It is mailbag time. 2 ways to get on the show. Use hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat to skip the line and get your questions answered here. We'll get to, I think, Xenos and Massive Mats and Ecuador Man as part of the mailbag here. Were they polling or do you have to find a way to build them? Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Because the Cowboys aren't going to do that next 2 days. Hey, speaking of new resistance, baby. So get your questions in via hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat. Skip that line. It is the mailbag. I like doing the mailbags. They're fun. It allows us to talk about what you guys specifically want. That's kind of the whole point of the show is we talk about what you guys want to hear and talk about. Like, I'm not going to sit there talking about the long snapper for 2 hours because nobody wants to. All right. Anyway, here's today's Super Chat menu. $20 for a shot, $50 for the beer bong, $100 will do the bong and a slap and a shot, $500 a custom Cowboys jersey of your choosing. I will wear it all watch party season long. You can see your name up there on the show, and then we'll ship it out to you at the end of the year. Into today's mailbag, a super thanks to kick things off here from Blood Slinger, who just said thanks. It was in reference to the Linval Joseph signing. Appreciate that, Blood Slinger. As a reminder, you can super chat on live shows. Super thanks is the on-demand version of it. You can edit your message, send in whatever you want to send in. If you send one in, as long as it's not doing an ism, but even if it says, Tom, you suck, we'll show it on the show. Because we appreciate your support, even if it is just you paying your rent because you're a hater. Looking at you, Eagles fans. Hit those super thanks, and we'll give you some shout-outs on the show. From Tyler C. Madden, says Trey Lance and Brandon Cooks in exchange for Jordan Addison. Thoughts? Oh, it's a fun idea. The Cowboys win that trade. They trade Trey Lance, who they sent a 4th-round pick for, and Brandon Cooks, who they sent what amounts to a 5th-round pick for a former 1st-round pick in Jordan Addison, who was very good in his first year. I would do it. There's no way the Vikings do it. Now, Addison's got his off-field stuff he's got to get figured out because, it's a really bad look and a really bad action overall. And I guess I'll throw the allegedly on here. After your teammate dies in a drunk driving accident, for then you to go out and do drunk driving yourself. Like, that's just stupid. I don't even know if you want that guy off field stuff, because I think there's and then also, by the way, post a Instagram or story of you having mimosas like two days later. Read the room, buddy. Come on. Not a good look at all. Talented football player. Makes your team better. I doubt the Vikings would even consider it because they're not. Trey Lance doesn't, by the way, Trey Lance does not help Minnesota. We know that, right? Sam Darnold's going to start. J.J. McCarthy is their future. Trading for an older, worse receiver and a number 2 QB for their 1st-round pick at receiver doesn't make any sense. F. Lamb. Tom, could the Cowboys' strategy for CD be 1, don't pay him this year, make him plan his last year, 2, franchise tag him next year for 2025, then again in 2026, or release if production goes way down, sign him for a 3-year deal if the production is good? So as I told F. Lamb, if that is the Cowboys' plan, they are stupid. Because it doesn't make any sense. If you are already offering Lamb just under $33 million per year, why would you be trying to haggle and hope that you save money because he plays worse? Because that's actually what you're doing. And the biggest issue I have with this here is you have salary cap issues if you don't pay anybody. Because you're eating the big dead cap hit with Dak Prescott. You're paying Lamb $18 million on the salary cap in 2024, $25 million almost in 2025, and $30 million in 2026, with zero flexibility in how you manage your salary cap because you can't restructure that money. If you are paying a vastly more expensive premium in actual cash you will pay out if you pay him 3 years later, because who here thinks Lamb isn't going to be a superstar player? And if you don't think that, you shouldn't be offering what you're offering him anyway. And then you can't structure it and backload that money and push it off in the future. You actually limit your ability to do other things if you franchise tag Lamb. You can pay him right now and pay him drastically less the next 3 years than a franchise tag option. Just a bad idea. So do you want to extend CeeDee Lamb? Type Y for yes, N for no. I think it's a yes, right? Sound off, Y for yes, N for no, the pinned comment of today's show. Zeno saying, $2 super chat. Over, under, Zeke 850 yards and 10 TDs. I take the over. You can talk me into the touches. You can get so much work in the red zone and short yardage. I can get on board with the touchdowns part. How many yards per carry do we think Zeke's going to average this upcoming season? Seriously, how many? Because if it's back at that 3.8, 3.9, even if it's just 4 yards per carry, you have to give him 200 carries to get there. 200 plus, pretty comfortably, actually. I think that would... I don't like that idea. So I'm taking the under on yards pretty easily. From Massive Matt, $10 super chat. I will crash out if Lamb isn't signed. Not often you get someone that good at his age. Being a fan of this team is so tiresome. Can't wait for them to do this to Micah, too. You do know what they're going to do to Micah, right? It's the exact same thing, and they're going to take that leadership quotes he's made and put it right back in his face, which isn't exactly fair. He also walked right into it. He has set himself up for this because they're not going to offer fair market. They never do. When was the last time the Cowboys quickly and urgently offered top-of-the-market money? That's not how they operate. If you want to take less, they'll do it with you. Mike already says the market's going to be at about $40 million per year. He's probably right. So what are you going to do then? God, does Steven want to pay that? They're going to do it to Micah next year. But with Lamb, there's just no excuse. All-pro player, young player, premium position. You need that type of offensive playmaker, whether you have Dak Prescott or you're rebuilding with a new QB. Doesn't make any sense outside of the Cowboys are being dumb again. Now, you should not be dumb, and you should start playing Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, over 5 million active members. A lot of people love it, but you don't have to beat all those people. You just have to beat the numbers, more or less, on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can watch your winnings roll in. You can win 100 times your money up to on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. That's $10 into $1,000. It's just picking the stat projections. More than, less than, in season. It's total season long Prize Picks options as well for football. I got Joe Burrow passing yards, Trevor Lawrence more than passing yards, Dak Prescott more than passing yards. If they stay healthy, they're going to play great. And they're going to crush those figures. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on prizepicks.com/CLNS for that first deposit match up to $100. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Ecuador Man says, Tom, get Renz. He was making fun of Flournoy. I'll find it. I don't know if he tweeted it or said it on the show, but it's coming from a place of hurt because Ryan Flournoy smoked Jack Jones. That's why he's feeling bad about it. Ian Burns, in a few years, if Deuce is gone and never worked out anywhere, he's got to be a Cowboys legend Hall of Famer. Yes. Eventually, Ezekiel Elliott will be in the Cowboys Ring of Honor, like the actual Ring of Honor. And when that happens, I will induct Deuce Vaughn into the Cowboys legend Ring of Honor. Because you're right. You're absolutely right if he doesn't actually materialize in anything good. Busch Gardens fan says, bring back Randy. Don't want to. He might retire, by the way. Like, I don't want to add him. Like, I don't think that's a good path because we've been down that road and the bridge has been burnt. I don't think you don't even need an edge right now, by the way. Retro Gleesh, we need Shadur Sanders. So, in general, and this can go for Shadur Sanders, go for Carson Beck, go for Quinn Ewers, insert any QB here. If you think that guy is going to be your next top 10, top 5 franchise caliber QB, and he plays like that to help make you justify that as your opinion there, that guy's going to go top 10, right? So how are you probably picking him in the top 25, picking the mid to late 20s? How are you going to get that top 5 pick? And if they are available for you, did they play well enough to make you think they're the franchise guy? This exact scenario is why I wanted the Cowboys to make up their mind. They should know by now if Dak Prescott is their quarterback for 2025. And if he is, they should have paid him. And if he's not, they should be playing Trey Lance all year, see if he's good. And if he's not, then you're picking top 5 probably, or picking top 10. And you can take that premium QB draft pick. What I don't want to have happen is you play just like the way we think they're going to. They're going to win 10 games. They'll win maybe one playoff game, depending on who they draw. And they'll get bounced before the conference championship game, head coach out of a contract, quarterback out of a contract, picking in the 24s, having no idea who the hell their quarterback's going to be and how they're going to get one. You can't trade Dak Prescott. He's a free agent. And as a no-tag clause, too. You've made your bed, and you're in danger of lying in it in a really bad spot. From Timothy Champagne. Is that Timothy Chalamet's cousin or something? Or is it like I don't know. Will there be a surprise extension before the season? Osa. If there is one, that would be a very good name. But I doubt it. They don't want to spend money. Honestly, even if they wanted to pay Osa Odighizuwa, I don't think you could, having not paid CeeDee Lamb right now. I think that the narrative angle is probably too much of a negative one there. So, I don't know if anyone gets paid. It should be at least one with CeeDee Lamb or I'm going to lose my mind. But before the season starts week 1, how many players will Dallas end up extending? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Ecuador Man, it was on a live stream, said 2 cups and Flournoy. All right, it's fine. Whatever. Look, the Raiders are going to be bad this year. I will let Mitch cope however he needs to. Clayton, Jerry purchased the Cowboys for $149 million and turned into a team worth $10+ billion. So what incentive does he have to change his ways of doing things? We're stuck with JJ. Yeah, you are not wrong. Like, they have wins, and they also win games. They're relevant. They get attention every year. They're not win at all costs because they like the costs that they get. From Jenkins Gaming, trade Mazi for Devon A-Chain. Your thoughts? I mean, I'd do it, but the Dolphins aren't doing it. Devon A-Chain was awesome last year for Miami. They love the speed in the backfield. Now, they need defensive tackle help too, but they're not going to I don't think the Dolphins say yes. I don't think that they would do that. Walter Smith, what is your nightmare scenario this year? We know the good is actual playoff success. I think, like, looking ahead to 2012, I kind of mentioned it when I went on my rant about not having a QB, picking 24. I think, like, in-season nightmare scenario is, remember how the last time the NFL team had the head coach and the quarterback not under contract, and they started the year hot, and then they all kind of fell apart, and it turned from we into me? That is my concern in season. That if the Cowboys hit some adversity in October, November, whenever, and you have set up an organizational structure where nobody's under contract, none of the coaching staff is really of note, the highly paid players, like the players who you could not feasibly move on from in a release, are basically fifth-year option for Micah Parsons, who you could trade, obviously, pretty comfortably. Tyler Guyton, Marshawn Nealon, Mazi Smith, and, like, that's it. Those are the only guys you couldn't actually cut. And what could happen, the downside is, it goes from it's all about us, it's about the team, it's about we, and it turns into it's about me. I got to look out for number one because I don't know what's going to happen here. I got to take care of myself first because I got no security from my employer. And that's how it goes from it's about we, it's about me real quick. It's very natural for a human to do that. That's the downside you're facing when you set up this prove-it year for everybody on the roster, basically, and the coaching staff, too. I want you guys to predict the Cowboys record then for me in 2024. Drop that record prediction in the comments of today's show. From Carter, how do you feel about the upcoming halfback draft? Big fan of Ollie Gordon. Yeah, Ollie Gordon got to figure out that DUI thing there. But I think you got a good class. Two Ohio State kids, Quinshon Judda kids, Travion Henderson, Ashton Jeanty at Boise State's super nice too. Omarion Hampton at North Carolina. There's a lot of good players in that backfield class. So you will be able to find one if you want to. Round 1, round 2, round 3 next year pretty easily. Matthew Weibrink, how do you feel about trading Brock Hoffman for a quality running back or DT, assuming Bass could play center? I think he could. I think BB starts in that scenario. I would wonder if around the league, you'd have a better chance of finding interest in TJ Bass as opposed to Brock Hoffman. Hoffman's been more of a journeyman. He wasn't, as quick of a find by Dallas as the Bass is UDFA in that same year. I get a bit hesitant trading away offensive linemen because it's tough to find guys that are competent. And you might want those guys next year if Zach Martin decides to call it a career and hang up and retire. I would almost be more comfortable trading away one of my day 3 draft picks. Like, I got all these 5th and 6th. Let me offer you one of those, and I'll keep Bass and Hoffman instead, especially for a back. All right, don't miss any Cowboys Report YouTube video, folks. Hit that sub button if you haven't already. It's youtube.com/CowboysTV. Retro Gleese, if we had Romo at QB the year we had Amari, CD, and Zeke, we'd have a ring. But would you? Because I actually don't think you do. Because I'll go on a bit of a rant here. The Cowboys and Romo and Dak era Cowboys, they're the same team. But by the way, we do know that, right? Like, the same negatives we're saying about Dak Prescott were often used against Tony Romo. I remember. I saw it. I saw Romo have an even better team in that Minnesota Vikings blowout playoff loss. Wasn't all the QB's fault either, by the way. Joseph Thomas, last one. Hey, Tom, and everyone in the studio, how are you guys doing? Hope everything is well for you guys and go Cowboys. Thanks you, Joseph. It's very kind of you. Appreciate that. Reminder on the Super Chat menu, $20 for a shot, $50 for a beer bong, $100 for the bong, slap, and shot combo, $50 for a custom Cowboys jersey. We didn't put it in there, but I did see, I didn't see who it was, but someone had made the comment that, there's a report the Cowboys looking at running backs. I know the report you are referring to. Do you know where they took that report from? Me! It was my report, and it was my idea. It wasn't even a report. It was the NFL. I'm going to body them here. I'm going to do it. It was the NFL Notify account. They just happened to tweet out, some names to monitor. Elijah Mitchell, Miles Sanders. I mean, let me just find the damn report so I don't incorrectly accuse them of doing stuff. But it was because they follow me on Twitter, and you can go back and look at one of my videos, and the names that were on there were on a graphic. Like, it was Elijah Mitchell, Miles Sanders, Jeff Wilson, Israel Abanikanda. Nobody is talking about Israel Abanikanda outside of us here on the show. Nobody's talking about him. Maybe a Blog and the Boys outlet too. Like, that's where the list come from. Because they follow me, and I think Blog and the Boys mentioned it at one point too. But I'm the one who took all the different names and put them together on our show. That's where the rumor alert comes from. Stole from us. And then they package it as that's what I hate about these accounts, by the way. They package this stuff as this was just my idea of like, hey, these are some names to monitor. We'll see if they're available or not. And then it gets, translated into, this is the question from Daniel M. Like, it gets translated into, well, this is a rumor of like implying that they talk to NFL sources about it. It's not a thing. They just took from the show. Like Jeff Wilson, Elijah Mitchell, Miles Sanders, Israel Abanikanda. Those are names that could be available. That make some sense. Just don't package it as like, these are names we're hearing about. No. You watch the show. You stole it. It's fine. Just credit it. And don't repackage it as, it ends up being a bad game of telephone. Because it comes back here, right? Like reports out there. Well, not really. It was just ideas. Because everyone knows they're looking for a running back. Makes sense. All right, who is your all-time favorite Cowboys player? Let me know in the comments of today's show. All-time favorite Cowboys player. I'll give some shout-outs since we didn't do it earlier. We are getting close. I'm going to have to kidnap Rowdy. You know that, right? I'm going to have to do it. You know how people were like, hey, I'll help. Hey, do it anyway. A lot of people don't like Rowdy. Larry Allen, Travis Frederick, Emmitt Smith, Roger Staubach, Sean Lee, Jason Witten, Staubach, Aikman, Emmett, Jason Witten, DeMarcus Ware. My dark horse might be Sean Lee. I still have my Sean. I'm not a big jersey guy, but I do have a Sean Lee jersey. Because he was special. He was a special player. He could have just stayed healthy a bit more frequently. A T.O. mention? Fat Sushi Man says Earl Thomas. So obviously we're doing the Cowboys Legend Ring of Honor bit. I almost put Earl Thomas in there because I thought it would have been really funny. Kind of like how we did like the Zeke at center. I thought it was really funny. Ed Too Tall Jones, Dez was awesome too. And no doubt about that one. Let's see what else we got here. Sean Lee, Dez again, DeMarcus Ware, Michael Irvin, Jason Witten, Marion Barber. Yeah. It was actually a good feature the Cowboys website did. I've been very mean to the Cowboys handle and have ratioed them once or twice over the CeeDee Lamb stuff. Was not going to do it under the Marion Barber post stuff. Got a Rico Gathers mention. He might be your Cowboys legend at tight end. We didn't do a tight end because there are no tight ends in the Ring of Honor. So once Witten goes in, we'll have to open it up. Might have to be Rico Gathers there. All right, all-time favorite Cowboys player. Keep the comments coming for me. Where else but the live chat of today's show. We're going to preview the third and final preseason game. Before we get into it, had a lot of likes last week, and look at that. The Cowboys happened to beat the Raiders, much to my boy Mitchell Wren's shamblesness. If you want the Cowboys to beat the Chargers this week, then show it by liking today's video. Thank God it is not a 10 p.m. Eastern time kick for the Cowboys and Chargers. Instead, it is a 4 p.m. Eastern kick. Dallas at home for the first and only time in the preseason this year. They are favored against the Chargers, who will also not probably be playing many of their key players either. We're going to run through 10 players to watch. We've done offense the first 2 times to lead off. Let's go defense instead. Let's begin with Mazi Smith. I think you want to give him reps. It shows where we're at in the development of a first-round pick that we're talking about him needing to play well in the preseason, but it's where we're at. I thought he played pretty solidly in the first one. They didn't give him credit. I will give him credit because he got the tackle on the screen. It was a TFL. We all saw it with our own eyeballs. I saw some good things from Mazi Smith. I think there's room to do more good things. I think the conditioning's got to get up a little bit, which does make sense when you think about the weight loss and the weight gain, the shoulder rehab. It's kind of like all kind of figuring out what's going on and maximizing yourself there. I've seen some good things. I think he needs the reps. So I'm playing him in this game. Hopefully the Cowboys do as well. From Viliame, the defensive end. Look, I know I've been very negative about him. And to an extent, I apologize. But I'm also not wrong. It has been 75 snaps out of Fehoko. How many times have you noticed him? We noticed him once. He had a TFL and he missed it. Didn't take a great angle, missed the play in the backfield. He hasn't had a pressure in a single preseason game. He's had like 50-something snaps in pass rush and has 0 pressures. That is not the mark of an NFL caliber player. So I need him to step up. Show me something. Or I'm going to be calling Dan Quinn and saying, hey, come pick up your kid. You got to trade for him because you were the one who wanted to draft him, and he's not going to make our roster. So hopefully, I hope he plays great. I hope he makes me look dumb, and I go, maybe you do put him on the active roster. Let's see it first. So what will Dallas do with Viliame Fehoko? K, if they're going to keep him, T, if they're going to trade him, or C, where they will cut him. It's the pinned comment of today's video. That ad comes on the YouTube side. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Buddy Johnson is next up here at linebacker. Todd Archer's kind of hyped him up a little bit as a guy that might be able to make the Cowboys roster. I don't think he's someone that should be ignored. Todd's got a pretty good track record there. Former Steeler, I believe it was a 4th-round pick out of Texas A&M. Has the size that Mike Zimmer likes at linebacker. Would predominantly be a special teamer, but if he can flash a little bit, there's a lot of linebackers fighting for 1 or 2 spots on that depth chart. So Buddy Johnson and everybody else at that group, I think is certainly worth monitoring. All right, Eric Scott Jr., the cornerback. I actually thought he played pretty well in the second game, mostly because they didn't really target him. The one thing I want to see be better out of Eric Scott, it is one thing to allow a catch. It is another thing to have that catch go for a first down and miss a tackle and have it go for a first down. Andrew Booth got beat a lot more in the preseason than Eric Scott has so far. But Eric Scott and Andrew Booth have the exact same amount of first downs allowed. If you're in 3rd and 7 and you allow a 6-yard catch, who cares? As long as they're not going to go for it on 4th down, I guess. If you're in 3rd and 7 and you allow an 8-yard catch, that's a completed catch. Yards allowed. Very different end results, though. So I want to see if Eric Scott can do some more things because he's in a better spot than Fehoko, but kind of in a similar one. His sponsor's gone. Stan want to come trade for him? Who knows? I want you guys to predict the score for me of the Cowboys and Chargers matchup. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Finally, Julius Wood. He and Kamon Hall fit this category too. Under the radar, impressive players who have flashed in the preseason are fighting really hard for a roster spot. They might not make it, but they should make your practice squad. And maybe Julius Wood is one of the players that if you do cut, you're kind of sweating a little bit out if he gets claimed. Most guys don't get claimed. Fehoko might get claimed because he's a 4th-round pick. I don't know if Julius Wood actually would get claimed, though. So I love what I've seen from him. He's been very impressive. I want to see him keep playing well, and I want to get him down to my practice squad in 2024. Today's Cowboys Report is made possible by Game Time. If you are trying to go to the Cowboys-Chargers game, then you should be using Game Time. Keep an eye out for the Game Time Picks feature. It's a new feature from the Game Time app. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets to your next big event. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will actually credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time Picks only shows you the best value on tickets. And by the way, they have deals and tickets up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. So download the Game Time app today, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create your account and redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. That's promo code CHATSPORTS over at GameTime.co. Because what time is it? It's game time. From Trey Lance, the quarterback, for the leads off with offense. And this is so obvious. I don't even know how much I want to spend on this. We've spent plenty of time on it previously. I want to see more growth. That's my goal. Be better than you were in week 2. Stack improvements. I thought he looked more comfortable. He was better under pressure. He missed fewer plays. I would love to see a massive Will Grier-esque preseason finale. We'll see if that happens. But maybe that shouldn't even be the expectations. That was a pretty rare preseason game, frankly. But I want to see some more big plays out of Lance. Showcase that talent that made you a top 3 pick. Lance is a very viable option here. But what player are you watching in the final NFL preseason game? Is it Lance or somebody else? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Let's go to running back. It's Deuce Vaughn. I can't quit him. I don't care. I can't do it, guys. I can't. Every time he touches the ball in the preseason, good things happen. In general, in the running back room, by the way, I am very curious to see who plays and when. Because I wonder if the ordering has mattered. It's been Malik Davis, it's been Royce Freeman, then it's been Deuce Vaughn. Who plays more? Who doesn't play in this game? They were giving Deuce Vaughn some first-team reps at the end of training camp this week. Does that mean he's in a decent spot to make the roster? There's only 2 locks at running back. It's Zeke Elliott and Rico Dowdle. The second or the third, maybe 4th spot, I'm not kind of Lipke. He's a fullback for me, but the running backs, that's wide open. So I want to see who plays, how they play, and how much they play. Let's go to tight end. Brevin Span-Ford, fighting for a roster spot, and also kind of done dirty by the NFL Media Day people. Looks like they took his photo when he was blinking almost. They kind of did him dirty there. Big boy, listed at 6'7", 270. That's a large human being. Hasn't been as dominant as a run blocker as I was hoping he was going to be, and hasn't done much as a pass catcher. If Lipke's a fullback / tight end, Dallas might not carry 4. Historically, they love carrying 4. And Brevin Span-Ford fighting with Princeton Fant and maybe Peyton Hendershot for that option. Outside of Ryan Flournoy, who of your pass catchers in the preseason across both games has impressed you? Not that many guys. Someone's got to step up. So what is your confidence level in the Cowboys beating the Chargers? Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comment section of today's show. The center battle's not over, by the way. I want to see, does Cooper Beebe start? And how long does he play? The way you utilize your personnel can often indicate whose spot, whose role is safer than maybe we thought initially. So, I think he's going to play. But if Beebe, only plays with the 1s and Brock Hoffman doesn't, I think that's actually a pretty good indicator. And I guess 1s are really the 2s, since the 1s aren't going to play. So 2s and 3s could be a very good sign for Beebe and his role day 1 as a potential starting center. Now, we will be live for the Cowboys-Chargers game. It is supposed to be a 4 p.m. Eastern Time kick. I would bet 4:10, 4:15, whatever. We will be live an hour and a half early, a 2:30 p.m. Eastern start. So don't miss out. hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. I'm going to cheat and do 11 players to watch. And again, I kind of have hammered on it. How you get utilized. My suspicion, it's my theory only, the Cowboys will give Awesome Richards more playing time at left tackle in this game than what they did last week. And the reason being, they want to have a little battle between Ball and Richards, who's going to be that swing tackle or that backup left tackle. God forbid, knock on wood, something happens. Maybe still see Josh Ball play there. I've been pretty impressed by Richards at left tackle and left guard. From a football-only perspective, Josh Ball's actually been great in the preseason. I think he took Operation White Lie literally. So who plays at left guard? Because you've got injuries, right? Nathan Thomas has been banged up. No. Who plays at left tackle? How does that rotation work out? Do you plug Cole Cabral in there at left guard? Do you give TJ Bass left guard? Put Josh Ball back there at right guard? Who is your top tackle backup week 1? I have no idea who it is. Is it Matt Letzko? He's kind of on the roster. Has not been as good as Ball and Richards have been. That's a job up for grabs still. Matters a lot for the preseason. All right, Cowboys legend voting before we go. In almost hilarious fashion, Jeff Heath has 68% of the vote. We could have gotten to 69. Could have gotten some 69 in there. Reggie Robinson, that's RR, has 8%. Mario Edwards / Pete Hunter have 4%, so we'll call it 2% apiece there. Because I can only do 4 options on the poll, which I hate. Just give me 5. You can do 5, YouTube. Help me out here. Xavier Rhodes, 18%. So, Isidaro says, organization sees something in Ball we don't. They might be right on this one. He's actually been really good at this season. I don't like the guy because of what he did at Florida State. And also, no need for allegedly. Florida State found him guilty. It's not slander or libel. He was found guilty. I've also been, pains me again, but I've also been told that, he's actually super nice to everybody around the Cowboys organization. He's oh yeah, super nice guy. I'm like, God damn it. Come on. Look at the redemption act. It's good. Honestly, good for him. Doesn't excuse what happened, but good for him. That's how you find a way to last a little bit longer, you know? JHMERRPHXR for your Cowboys legends. It's going to be a runaway for Jeff Heath. We all know it. Jeff Heath's going to win. I feel pretty confident in that one. Now, again, we will be live Sunday. TBD if we'll be live Monday. We'll have videos for you, but might be a on-demand video day. We'll start to get cuts. Then. So, and the segments that we do and then put out later in the week, it doesn't really make as much sense to do because chaos. We'll be live. Cowboys Chargers. Make sure you guys tune in. We'll have some giveaways, have some fun for you. Hopefully for a Cowboys win in the final preseason game. We'll have roster cut videos for you on Tuesday, Monday. Maybe a waiver claim on Wednesday. I got my eyes on Israel Abanikanda. Got my eyes on him. He's actually been pretty good for the Jets, but they've got a bunch of young backs. So we'll see. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/CowboysTV.